Good morning. This morning we're going to do a curious little story in the Bible. Actually, it's kind of a big story of the Transfiguration. But before we do that, let's go ahead and do our gathering song. All right.
God welcomes all strangers and friends. God's love is strong and it never ends.
Let's go learn about the Transfiguration. All right. Good afternoon. Well, I'm hoping you're watching this on a Sunday morning, on a chilly Sunday morning. It's probably one of the coldest days we've had in a long time. And I kind of like these days a little bit, but I don't know. It's pretty cold. Today we are going to talk about the Transfiguration. What the heck does that mean? Transfigure. Well, trans means to change or to move through, transport, and transfer. That means you're moving from one place to another, and it's a figuration. We're getting a new picture of who Jesus really is at this stage in the gospel according to Mark. Jesus has already done all kinds of stuff. In fact, this is pretty soon after the one of my favorite stories is when a man with an unclean spirit. They're always saying somebody with an unclean spirit, and what that means, they're distraught. They're at the edge of they're at the end of their rope, and they come to Jesus because nothing else is working for them. And Jesus cured him, basically by showing him love and kindness, and the way they describe it back in those days, the demons left him, and they went into a bunch of pigs on the hillside, and the pigs all ran and fell into the sea. It's a dramatic slash comic type story. And Jesus has raised a little girl from the dead. He's done it all. He's done it all, and now, well, let's just read the story real quick. This is in Mark, chapter 9, verses 2 through 9. 6 days later, Jesus took with him Peter, James, and John, and led them up a high mountain apart by themselves, and he was transfigured before them, and his clothes became dazzling white, such as no one on earth could bleach them that white. And there appeared to them Elijah with Moses, who were talking with Jesus. Then Peter said to Jesus, Rabbi, it is good for us to be here. Let us make 3 dwellings, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. He did not know what to say, for they were terrified. Um, and then a cloud overshadowed them, and from the cloud there came a voice, This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him. Suddenly, when they looked around, they saw no one was with them anymore, but only Jesus. As they were coming down the mountain, he ordered them to tell no one about what they had seen until after the Son of Man had been risen from the dead. In other words, don't keep this to yourself. There's going to be a bunch of crazy stuff going to happen, but just keep this to yourself. And but what is transfiguration? So what did they see? Jesus blazing white? Let's take a peek. I've kind of made a little storyboard out of this. It's a habit I have anymore because I know how to use technology now, and I'm going to subject you to it. All right, so here we go. All right, here we are. Let's start up here. Okay, and let's just go ahead and go to slideshow. Let's play it from the start. All right, so Jesus is transfigured. But who are these 2 guys with? Why did they mention Moses and Elijah? I wonder. Well, Moses um, was sinned bad. He murdered somebody, and he was. We don't want to go into the whole Exodus story. I'll try not to, but it's such a cool story. But anyway, Moses was in Egypt. He was raised in Pharaoh's family, actually, because his mother had put him in a basket and he because of bad things were happening in the Hebrew community. So Moses was put in a basket, and his mother, I'm sure, just incredibly wounded, pushed him down the river to escape. And Pharaoh's daughter happens to see this baby in a basket floating by and saves him. And the key part of the story that gets overlooked is Pharaoh's daughter sees his mother standing across the way and says, "Hey, I'm a young girl. I can't feed this child. I need you to help raise him." So anyway, so that's how Moses' life got started, and then he rose to prominence in Egypt, and then he murdered somebody. He saw somebody beating he saw a taskmaster, a Pharaoh, beating a Hebrew person, and so Moses intervened. And anyway, so he left, and he went to live with he went to live with Jethro, and back with his people, and he was a sheep herder. And one day when he was herding sheep, he was up in the mountain, just like Jesus went up the mountain. Except this time, this bush is transfigured. It's a burning bush, and Moses is actually talking to God. Moses has been directed by God to go back to Egypt, go back and tell Pharaoh to let the Hebrew people go who are being enslaved and being treated horribly. I want my people out of there. And Moses was like, "Well, who am I? I'm slow of speech. I can't do this." And God says, "I will be with you at all times." And so Moses goes back to Pharaoh and says, "Let my people go," after a whole bunch of things had take place. And it's a great story. Don't watch the movie. It's a great story. Just reading the story and then talking about it with your parents and stuff, about all the things that happened. Pharaoh's like, "No, you can't go." And then finally Pharaoh says, "Okay, you can go. All right, take it. Just get out of here. You've been nothing but trouble since you showed up. So I'm done with you. Go away." All right. So Moses, the people leave, but as always, as they say in Exodus a lot of times, but Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and Pharaoh came after him, and that's where we get the parting of the Red Sea. Moses was able to part the Red Sea. Jesus, before the Configuration, parts the Jordan River. Okay, so there's parallel. So this is the New Testament writer saying, "Hey, this Jesus person is up there with Moses and even above Moses, as a leader of his people." And so Moses brings the law. Jesus, we talk about as being the new law, that the Hebrew people had with them the whole time too. Right? So that's why Moses was up there. Now, who's this Elijah guy? All right, who was Elijah? So Moses was transfigured by God. Moses was a leader of his people. Moses brought the law. Who's this Elijah person? Elijah, when we first meet him, he meets a woman, and he's a prophet. And back then, and they had the judges and then the prophets, and Elijah was in the string of the prophets who had like almost a direct line to God. They knew how to speak God's intentions to the people. And Elijah, there's a big famine that's taking place. In fact, some crows come and help him survive. And he runs into this woman who has hardly anything to eat. Her son is sick. Her son actually seems like he's died. And Elijah raises him from the dead. Okay, so, Moses parted the Red Sea. Jesus parts the Jordan River. Moses brings the law. Jesus is the new law. Elijah raises from the dead. Jesus has risen people from the dead. So we're getting an idea of how important Jesus is in this story. He's being transfigured. All right. And then Elijah has some trouble with the prophets of Baal. And when you're older, you can read that story. let's just say he won. It was, and so Elijah is the strongest of all the prophets. He not the strongest. He is a true prophet of God. God is moving within him. What he speaks, the way he acts, it is through the power of God. And at the end, close to the end of his life, Elijah anoints Elisha, who becomes a new prophet here and is taken up in a whirlwind and a chariot of fire. So Elijah ascends. Elijah's at the end of Elijah's life, he ascends into heaven. Oh my gosh, we got all kinds of things going on. So at the mountain, at the top of the mountain, Jesus is the Son of God. And these two heroes of the Hebrew Scripture, these two of the biggest heroes of the Hebrew Scripture. Another one could be Joshua. Guess what Jesus' name is? It's in Hebrew, Joshua. So, two big heroes of the Bible are pointing at Jesus saying, this is the one. This is the true Son of God. In case you guys don't get it, and I'm talking to you, Peter, James, and John, in case you don't get it yet, these guys are God. And so who was it? Who was it that ran down? Was it Peter? Yeah, of course. Peter. Oh boy. Peter is the Labrador retriever of the disciples. Okay? He's the one who gets all excited, wags his tail, and wreaks havoc without knowing it. Lovingly wreaks havoc. Oh, we got to build 3 tents of meeting, basically. And she's like, whoa, stop. Just be. Just suck in. Just take in. Not suck in. Just take in what you've seen and what has happened. Okay. And so the prophets are the ones who help us, as Geraldine talks about, when she would do the, wish she could record those and send them this Lenten season when we go through Lent, and she talks about who's pointing to the cross. The prophets are the first ones that we start with, and these are two of the biggies, two of the big prophets. I mean, there's also lots of others too. Isaiah comes to mind, but Isaiah, but a lot of the prophets that we read, Ezekiel, Isaiah, and those, they're just, and Amos. Who's my favorite? Jonah. Jonah actually did some action, but they're more heady and more doing things with their writing and preaching, and they are in tune to God. Whereas these two guys, they're men of action. Okay. All right. Well, that was fun. I had fun. I don't know if you did. So there's the story of the Transfiguration. We needed the two prophets to point to that Jesus is the Son of God. And the Transfiguration was not that Jesus knew that he was now transfigured. He knew that all along. It's that Peter, James, and John kind of get whacked up the side of the head and go, oh, that's what we're talking about. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. Okay, so there we go. And now it's time for us to do, whoops, I cut myself off again. Here in a minute, Ann and I will do our going song. It'll be our chance to talk to Jesus. Well, if you've stuck with me this far, that was quite a story, wasn't it? And it's an important story. And now it's our turn to talk to God, to go up to our mountain, and we'll bring in the light. and we'll say a quick prayer. And I pray that all of us can be transfigured to do good in this world. There's enough people doing bad. It's time we had our own transfiguration and did good. Now I invite you to say a prayer. Okay, now let's put the candle out. And the smoke rising reminds us that God's love and God is everywhere. So, let's do our going song. Which is here somewhere. Here it is.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of God surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
May the grace and peace of Christ be with you.